Man, it's low-key lockdown and we're back here with another video today for y'all, man. We got a fight off of that UFC 303 card. You know, that Chandler versus McGregor. And it would only be right to put another Irish guy on this card. I mean, who is that Irish guy again? Oh, yeah, IAN MACHADO Garry. Sorry, not IAN MACHADO GARRY, man, versus Micheal Venum Page. Micheal Venum Page is very new to the UFC, but he is definitely not new to the scene of MMA. You know, he's been around for a long time. People have been talking about him, even inside the UFC, even before he was in the UFC. He's been a Bellator. He was a Bellator staple. Very, very, very dynamic striking. One of those guys one of those what ifs. What if he had came into the UFC earlier? What if he had, what if he had just been around and been in the right organizations to make his record make sense? You get what I'm saying? But anyways, man, this is a very, very, very good fight because both of these guys are very, very high-level strikers, and there won't be much grappling in this match, which means we'll get to see a very high-level kickboxing versus, like, karate-style fight, and I wonder what happens with that. Look, for one, I'm going to break down a lot of things. For one, IAN MACHADO GARRY, we know how he fights. He fights very long, rangy. You know, he fights reserved and doesn't waste a lot of movement. Very clean, crisp kickboxing. You know, like he's been training and hitting mitts his whole entire life type shit. Then MVP, he fights wild. He fights the bladed karate style stance, but he's very crisp and very accurate and very sharp with his shot selection. He's unpredictable. Lots of different weird attacks from a lot of different weird angles, and you never know what he's going to throw, when he's going to throw it, how he's going to throw it, and he manages distance better than almost anybody. Both of these fighters fight with a great deal of distance between them. They like to use the distance to their advantage, but I feel like the person with the advantage as far as distance control in this fight will be MVP because of the way he manages that distance. He manages that distance with his length, the threat of his just his bladed karate style stance, that darting in and out, taking the distance and then taking it away, taking the distance, taking it away, taking the distance, backing up, taking the distance away. You know what I'm saying? He uses a lot of feints, a lot of false starts, a lot of footwork, a lot of just, he uses a lot. Whereas though IAN MACHADO GARRY just uses his length and some of his footwork to try to, neutralize a guy who might be a bit smaller than him with a bit shorter of a reach. He fights very long. But in this fight, he does not have the reach advantage. He has a 74-inch reach to Micheal Venum Page's 79-inch reach. There is a lot of things that, play into how this fight could possibly go. And a lot of the narratives leading up to this fight is that Micheal Venum Page hasn't been tested that well in the UFC and that people think that IAN Garry could possibly destroy him. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let y'all... This is what I'm going to break down for you right here. Now, you tell me if this sounds like a guy that you're just going to run through. For one, the guy has the speed advantage. MVP is definitely faster. Power advantage. Definitely hits harder. Way more knockouts. Striking, I'm gonna give it to MVP as well because he has more variation in his striking combinations, and anything, he could throw anything at any time. Grappling, IAN MACHADO GARRY, I give him that. Reach, of course, as I just stated previously, MVP has a reach advantage in this fight, and this is just gonna be a very tricky fight. Just gonna be very tricky for both of them. For one, MVP. One thing that IAN MACHADO GARRY could capitalize versus MVP is that he uses his hands so low to try to keep, baiting you in and try to pull you into his shots. And, I don't think that MVP has fought anybody as high level as far as striking as IAN MACHADO GARRY and how technical and skillful IAN MACHADO GARRY is. But neither has IAN MACHADO GARRY fought a guy who moves in fights and is fucking accurate and deadly as MVP either. MVP might be one of the best strikers in the UFC. Just let's use the Kevin Holland fight, for example, right? Wonder Boy and Kevin Holland went out there and fought a difficult fight. They were touching each other for a long periods of time, good rounds, back and forth. And Wonder Boy is one of the best strikers in the entire UFC. MVP barely got touched in that fight. His evasion of strikes, just moving out of the way, his head movement is very, very good. But the one thing I can say about his defense is he could use his hands more. He could use his hands more in blocking. He shouldn't rely so much on head movement because IAN MACHADO GARRY's legs are extremely long. This could leave him open for a head kick. If you knock when he's supposed to buck, he could get hit with a head kick. Because IAN got long ass legs, got a weird awkward ass body frame, and he's very, very proficient at head kicks. He's ended a lot of fights with those. Man, I want to say that IAN Garry Ian Garry, bro, he has a very, very difficult challenge to face in this fight. He has to kind of be a boring fighter in this fight, because if he decides to go down there and chase Micheal Venum and Page, as y'all know how dangerous it is to chase Micheal Venum Page, if he goes out there and chases him, I see that he loses this fight. Maybe by knockout or, just by getting masterclassed. But if Ian Machado Garry goes out there and fights the pride of MVP and says, you know what? Fight me. Fight me too. I'm not about to just chase you around like, you can't chase him. He has to make him fight him. Because if not, and he decides to go after and pursue Micheal Venum Page, this makes it, this plays into Micheal Venum Page's world. This is where he's the most accurate. This is where he's the best. This is his gameplay. He lures you into his strikes. He baits you into his strikes. He knows that you have to catch him. He knows that you have to catch him. And with Kevin Holland, in that fight with Kevin Holland, he frustrated him because he couldn't really get his hands on him. And he kept running away, sort of like, not necessarily running away, but moving backwards and, just springing forward combinations and, bouncing in and out of the range. And, it's hard to hit a guy from as far away as he keeps you. And that's just such an interesting thing to see when you're fighting a person. And it would be, I imagine, very, very intimidating to fight a guy who can knee you from flying backwards, spinning wheel kick you, and all kinds of fucking ridiculous karate-style movements, and with power, and with speed, and with accuracy. All of that. I feel like, I want to say, man, damn, I don't really, you feel me? Due to Ian Garry being more standardized fighter and MVP sort of kind of being a little bit more unorthodox, I want to give it to MVP because of his style, and styles make fights, but I kind of don't know what it'll look like versus MVP because we never seen nobody at the level of striking that Ian Garry is fight a guy like MVP. So I still kind of want to give it a 45-55 edge for MVP. This is a very close fight, actually. It's not, most likely there won't be much grappling. Most likely there won't be too much clinch work. MVP is very hard to hold down. Very hard to even get into those scenarios, but I very much doubt there will be a lot of clinch work. One thing that Ian Garry does have in his background, his kit, is that he has some judo in his background. Maybe he could go out there and shoot and attempt for some takedowns. I don't think that he's going to get a takedown on MVP because that's not his normal game strategy. And to be able to get one on a guy who is as slippery and movement as fast as him, that's going to be very tricky, my boy. And if that's your game plan, bro, I feel sorry for you because it's going to be hard. But, man, I'm going to have to lean in favor towards MVP. I feel like MVP is going to win this fight. And I feel like it might be by, I think it's by decision. If not decision, then I say second round TKO or KO. I feel like MVP wins this fight for sure. And I feel like Ian Machado Garry, if he implements the game plan and the strategy I told you about, maybe he wins this fight. And I feel like he wins this fight by knockout. But it all depends on what each other does and how they adapt to each other's style. What adjustments will they make for each other, and who will adjust better, and who will adapt better, and who will make the game plan to successfully beat the other person. So with that being said, man, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next, man. And it wasn't really too much to, it wasn't too much info to analyze on this one. Sorry for such a vague breakdown, but this one is, it's just a mystery match. We don't really know. I feel like MVP is going to win this fight just because of his style. I feel like he's a lot more accurate, more clean, faster, etc. And, that's pretty much it.